If you've been scrolling through endless lists of MIG welders, comparing specs, watching YouTube demos, and still feel stuck on which one actually fits your shop or job site, you're not alone. That hesitation usually comes from trying to balance power, portability, and price without ending up with a machine that's either too bulky to move or too weak to finish the job. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down the Lincoln Electric Elevate S-Li battery-powered welder and let you know whether it really lives up to the hype, or if you'd be better off looking elsewhere. First off, let's talk about the problem this welder tries to solve. Traditional stick or MIG welders still need a generator, a heavy-duty transformer, or a corded outlet, which makes them a pain to haul onto a rooftop, a construction trailer, or a remote farm shed. The Elevate S-Li promises maximum portability by packing everything power source, charger, and control panel into a single, battery-run unit. That's a big claim, because if the battery dies halfway through a 12-inch fillet weld, you've just added another layer of frustration. So the key question is, does the battery really give you enough run time for a typical day on the job, and how easy is it to keep the pack charged when you're moving from site to site? The first thing I noticed when unboxing the Elevate S-Li was how compact it actually is. The whole thing fits into a medium-sized toolbox, and the handle is molded into the housing so you can swing it onto a workbench or onto a truck bed without needing a separate tote. The charger is built into the same case, meaning you plug the unit into a standard 120V outlet, and the battery tops up while the welder stays ready to fire. In practice, that translates to a very streamlined workflow. You finish a weld, you're done for the day, you plug the unit into the shop wall, and the next morning it's back at full capacity. For someone who runs a small to medium service business, think HVAC repair, fence building, or light frame construction, that simplicity can shave minutes off the daily prep routine. Now, who actually benefits from this design? If you're a contractor who spends a lot of time in places without reliable power, or a hobbyist who likes to take projects to the garage, a community center, or even a friend's driveway, the Elevate S-Li makes sense. Its internal rechargeable battery means you can walk away from the outlet and still have a few hundred amps of welding capacity, which is more than enough for typical stick or flux cord rods on thin sheet metal. On the flip side, a full-time fabricator who runs 24-hour shifts in a plant with ample three-phase power will probably find the battery's runtime limiting, and the price point higher than a comparable corded stick welder starts to feel like an unnecessary premium. One feature that sets the Elevate S-Li apart is the adjustable hot start and arc force controls. In real-world terms, hot start gives you a little extra voltage at the beginning of each strike, which helps the electrode bite into rusted or painted steel without popping. I tried it on an old fence that had been sitting out for years, and the first few strikes were noticeably smoother than with a standard stick gun. Arc force, on the other hand, lets you dial in how deep the arc penetrates, which is handy when you need a shallow bead on thin sheet, but also want the ability to drop into a deeper root pass on thicker plate without swapping machines. It's a subtle level of control that most entry-level welders don't provide, and it can actually reduce the number of passes you need to finish a joint. Durability is another claim Lincoln makes, and it's not just marketing speak. The housing is made from a rugged polymer blend that resists dents and scratches, and the internal components are sealed against dust and oil splatter, important if you're welding in a workshop that also does woodworking or automotive work. During a week of testing on a construction site, the unit survived a couple of accidental drops from a ladder height without any visible damage, and the battery connection stayed solid. That said, the unit isn't built for the kind of abuse you'd expect in heavy-duty shipyard environments, where you might need a welded steel case that can survive being tossed around in a metal box. If you're that kind of user, you may still want to consider a more industrial-grade machine. Let's get into the hidden trade-offs. The battery pack, while convenient, does add weight, about 30 pounds total. That's lighter than lugging a generator, but it's not something you'd want to carry up a 3-story stairwell every day. Also, the runtime is directly linked to the amperage you select. At a modest 100 amps, you can expect roughly 2 to 3 hours of continuous welding before the pack drops to 20%. Push it up to 200 amps, and you're looking at an hour or less. So you have to be strategic, plan your cuts and passes to stay